Now, we're all familiar with the passage in James 4:7, where he says this: submit yourselves to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. We're all familiar with that. But what we need to understand is, why is he saying that we need to submit to God? Why is he telling Christians that they need to submit something to God? Well, in the previous verses, he says the reason you have all the problems you're going through in your life is because of wrong desires. He says your desires are the problem. It's why your prayers aren't being answered, because you're praying with the wrong desires. You're doing things with the wrong desires. Everything goes back to your desires. I'm sure we're all familiar with a great invention that came out in my lifetime. We refer to it as a weed eater. I'm sure that's not the official name, but we all know it as a weed eater. And what it does is it just whacks off weeds right at the surface of the ground, on your sidewalk or anywhere else that you need to get rid of weeds. You just use that little thing, zip, just knocks them right off. The only thing is, every time you use the weed eater, you are insured that you will need to use that weed eater again in a few days. Why? Because you never attacked the root of the problem, literally. The root is still in the ground. The only way to really take care of it is to deal with the root, to get rid of what that is growing out of. And that's what James is saying, is that all your problems are growing out of a root of a wrong desire. And if you could submit that to God, then you could resist the devil and he'd leave you alone. But the problem is you have the wrong desires inside of you. And the desires is what's causing all the problems. So, does God give us wrong desires? No. But then the next question is, does Satan give us wrong desires? No. Satan cannot put a desire in you. Let me say that again. Satan does not have the power to put a desire in you. You say, well, then how do I get wrong desires? Well, Satan can give you a thought, just like he did with Eve in the garden. He just suggested a thought. That's all he can do, is suggest a thought. Then it's you and me that take it from a thought to a desire. It goes through a process, okay? When there's a thought, we can either reject it or hang on to it. And I think of a thought like a marble. They're real slippery. You can just, squeeze them, they flip right out of your hand. They don't stick to anything. That's what a thought is. You can just accept it or reject it. It's very easy to get rid of. But unfortunately, too often we hang on to those thoughts. We like to think of them, so we hang on to them for a while. And we do what I call a feasibility study on them. What does that mean? We start thinking about that thought enough that we say, I wonder what that would be like. I wonder how I could go about doing that. What would be involved in doing that? That's a feasibility study. And we do that with thoughts. We think of them enough that they go from being a thought to an idea. See, Satan doesn't give you ideas. He gives you thoughts. You turn them into ideas by doing your little feasibility study on them to see whether or not they really could be done, whether they're worth doing, what would it be like? What would it be like? That's the feasibility study. How could I go about doing it? That's the feasibility study. Then you go from that into a wish. It goes from being a thought to an idea to a wish. Then you really want to do it. You've done the feasibility study. Now you want to do it. That root is growing deeper and deeper. Okay, stronger and stronger. But it still hasn't come out of the ground yet. It hasn't become an action yet. And when I was growing up in church, unfortunately, most of the preachers didn't deal with the roots. Most of them that I heard, they dealt with the thing on the outside, the part that you whack off with the weed eater, okay? The part that's visible, the action, okay? And most preachers talk to us about how to control our actions. So what did that mean? That meant that the thoughts could stay in you. The ideas could keep going on. The wishes could keep on being there. You say, well, why didn't they ever come out of the ground? Why didn't they ever become actions? If we had these thoughts and ideas and wishes, why didn't they ever come out of the ground? Because they never became a full-blown desire. The desire is the big dog problem. When it becomes a desire, that means that you have gone to the point that you're willing to do it. What is it that holds us back? What is it that keeps us from giving into it when it's a thought, an idea, a wish? What keeps us from giving into it? The price. The price. We keep thinking, oh, but that would cost me my walk with God. That would be something I should not do. That would cost me my family. It would cost me my reputation. It would cost me my walk with God. It would cost me all of these things. So we think of the cost. Okay? But there comes a point when it becomes a full-blown desire. That's when you have gone beyond the cost. That now you want it so much that you don't care what it costs. See, the problem is for too many of us, we think, oh, I'm so afraid of doing that, I know I'll never do it, so I can go ahead and think about it. I can want it. I can wish for it. I can dream about it. I can fantasize about it. Have you done that? I have. Being honest. An honest preacher. I know they're hard to find. But anyway, I'm telling you honestly, I've thought about things that I was like, I'd like to do that, but I'm too afraid to, so it's okay for me to think about it because I know I'd never do it. We've all done that. We've all had those things that we said, I'd like to do that, but I know that I shouldn't. I know that I can't. And the cost of doing it keeps me from giving into it. So therefore, I know that I'll never do it. So we keep thinking about it. But the problem with doing that is that eventually your desire for it becomes so great when it becomes a desire that you don't care what it costs. I call it credit card mentality. It's what the credit card companies want us to have. Credit card mentality. What is that mentality? Play now, pay later. Play now, pay later. Okay? So that's what a credit card company wants you to think. Just go ahead and get whatever you want. Doesn't matter what it costs because I have a credit card. So just put it on the card. I'll pay for it later. Don't worry about it. I'll pay for it later. Doesn't matter what it costs. Without thinking of all the interest that it's going to cost us and how long it's going to take us to pay it off. Did you know that they say that the average credit card holder in the United States owes $2,000 on their credit cards? And I know some of you may be above average, okay? But I'm just talking about the average credit card holder owes $2,000 on their credit cards. And they say that to pay off a $2,000 debt on a credit card with 18% interest, if you just pay the minimum each month, just the minimum each month, on a $2,000 debt with an 18% credit card interest, which is an average basic interest on a credit card. So if you pay the minimum each month, do you know how long it'll take you to pay it off? 6 years, 8 years, 10 years? No, 30 years. 30 years to pay off a $2,000 debt. And in the process, I think that, if I remember correctly, you pay over $6,000 in interest on a $2,000 debt. I think that's right. If you pay the minimum each month. 30 years. But when we're buying that, we say, oh, I'm getting this dress 20% off. I can save so much money. Let me go ahead and buy this pair of shoes. I'm getting them 30% off. Oh, I'm getting such a deal on them. You have no idea what you're actually paying. You say, but I'm only paying 18% for 30 years. That's what you don't realize. So it's costing you way more. But we think in credit card mentality, and therefore we say, play now, pay later. We don't think of the cost. We don't look at what it's costing us to get it. And so what I'm saying to you is that's what happens with a desire. That root that's been growing underneath the ground all of a sudden sprouts up above the ground. It becomes an action. You can actually see it happening. Okay? It comes out into the open. When it comes out into the open, it's gone from being that hidden desire, that thought, that idea, that imagination, that wish. It's gone from being that into becoming a desire, an action, and it blooms forth above the ground. And at that point, it's visible. But we don't care, because at that point, the whole idea of doing it becomes more fascinating to us than the cost. So we say, play now, pay later. But unfortunately, we don't realize the devil has fooled us into devastating our walk with God by doing something like that, where we allow that desire to take over and hinder our walk with God, hurt Christ, hurt our walk with God, hurt the people who love us, hurt the people around us, hurt our reputation, hurt our Christian walk, all because that we allowed that thought to stay in our mind. If we had to spit it out when it was on, when it becomes an idea, when you've done that feasibility study on it, it's sort of like, have you ever, peeled up a piece of duct tape or masking tape off of something, and you wad it up into a ball and you go to throw it away, and you're like, trying to throw it away. It doesn't seem like you can get it off your hand. It just keeps on sticking on there. But guess what? Look at your hands now. I've had that happen to me, but look at both my hands. They're clean. You can get it off, but it is sticky. Okay, that's what an idea is like. Now the thought, you can just spit it right out like a marble, just slip it right out. But when it becomes an idea, when you've given some thought to it and done that feasibility study on what would it be like, what would that, what would that be like? Then you've got it to where it's sticky. It sticks to your hand, and you try to get rid of it, and it sticks to you, and you just keep on trying to throw it away, but it just sticks to you like this. It just can't get it off. See, what you need to understand is that you need to take care of it when it's only a thought. Even if it's at the idea stage, go ahead and get that duct tape off your hand. Throw it away. Deal with it now. Stop saying to yourself, the price is so great that I know that I'll never give in to it. Have you ever had Jesus say to you, I want you to start praying an extra hour a day. Get up early in the morning and spend an extra hour with me in prayer. Or I want you to start witnessing to people, telling people about Christ and winning them to Jesus. Or I want you to start giving more in the offering. And you start thinking about these things. You're like, yes, I can do that, but Oh, what would it cost? Oh, man, I'd have to get up earlier. If I'm going to fast, oh, I'd have to give up something I like to eat. Oh, why would I do? Oh. And so you decide, no, it costs too much. I'm not going to do it. See, when it comes to the things with God, we let the cost keep us back instead of giving in and go ahead and doing what will make us closer to God, will draw us closer to Him and help us to be more productive in the walk with Christ and in the kingdom of God. We let the price become the main thing when it's with Jesus. But when it's with sin, when it's with something that would hurt your walk with Christ, when it's with something that Satan suggests, the price becomes the last thing we look at. What I'm telling you is, stop thinking that the only thing we need to control is that thing that's above the ground when it's visible. No, by then, it's already got a whole root structure underneath there. You need to take care of it when it's only a thought, when it's only an idea, when it's only a wish. You need to take care of it then before it blossoms forth above the ground, before it becomes an action and is visible. You need to take care of it while it's in the root system. Deal with it then. Father, I pray for every person who's watching this right now. I pray that you will help them, that they really will count the cost. It's so easy for us to look at the cost when God asks us to do something for Him, to give more in the offering, to get up an hour early to pray, to read our Bible more, to witness to someone for Christ, to fast and give up a meal so we can spend time with God in prayer. We look at the cost before anything when it comes to things for God. But when it comes to things that Satan suggests to us, the cost seems to be so far in the distance. And it's the experience. What would it feel like? The sensation of that sin, of that wrong thing, that wrong activity, that seems to be in the forefront for us. And the price seems to be in the background. But help us also when it comes to anything you want us to do. Let the cost be the last thing on our mind. Paul said, I count everything as loss so I may win Christ. He said nothing matters. The price of everything is nothing compared to winning Christ. Paul said the price doesn't matter when Jesus is the reward. We need that to be our prayer. I want to give you a message that I preached based on the life of the youngest king that Israel ever had, Josiah, who became king at age 8. When he was 18 years old, he turned an entire nation to God. In fact, after his death, God said that no king before or after him had ever sought after God like he did. What caused this young man to be transformed into such a mighty man of God? He learned his destiny. I want you to have this message so you will be inspired to find God's destiny for your life. If you'd like to get this free audio CD or download it now as an MP3 file, just visit our website, markgorman.com. And on the home page, click the link for the free audio.